from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased joining me, and I'm very happy when I say this. From the same place where I live, the same city, from Dubai, I have founder of Desertcart, Rahul, with me. Rahul, thank you very much for being here with me today on the show. The way I love to do it, as I was saying to you, I love to keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. Tell us a little more about you, your journey, and how you ended up being the founder of Desertcart. So the
Sure.
floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first, Mehmet, thanks a lot for having me. Pleasure to be on. So the idea for Desertcart, basically, I finished college. I've actually been raised in Abu Dhabi, a few hundred kilometers from here. So I've been here for like 20, 25 years now almost.
Mm-hmm.
So after finishing college, I came back and, the e-commerce was really picking up in the rest of the world. And one of the things I missed most in Dubai was, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day around, I'm talking early 2010s, 2010, 11, it was very hard to get, the kind of products you wanted. I know you could go online and buy things like mobile phones, tablets, but, if you're into the niche hobbies, me personally, I was into magic tricks and I couldn't get some of the stuff I wanted online. And I knew this was possible. You could buy a lot of stuff online in the US and the UK. So for me, it was a problem I kind of had in like, okay, why can't I find really the products that I want to have online? Because I know it's available in the rest of the world. And sometimes they would ship to you, sometimes they wouldn't ship to you. Sometimes you could get a ship, but it's like super expensive to get a ship. So after all that, I'm like, okay, you know what? If this is a problem I'm having, I'm sure other people are having too. And I came up with the idea of Desertcart based on that. The idea is very simple. There's hundreds and millions of SKUs around the world, and let's make that accessible to people everywhere rather than just in one country or one region. So kind of trying to make the entire planet, your store is the idea I had. And I basically started to solve my own problem and thinking that if I have this problem, then I'm sure other people have it too. So I've been doing this now for 9.5 years, and it's been a pretty great journey.
But Rahul, you come from a technology background also, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I've always been interested in computers, and I was one of the first people had to, when I was a kid, I remember I had to really nag my dad into getting DSL, what just came out back in the day. But yeah, I was super into computers, tech. I think I was writing code when I was like 15, 16 back in the day. So yeah, it's always been a fascination for me. And obviously the whole software web as it came around in like the early 28, so I was super excited with the apps that came out with the website. So I did go to college as well. I studied computer science there. So it's always been a passion of mine, mostly writing code, developing. So that's my background. But I think writing code to solve a problem is one of the nicest, like best feelings you can have in the world. Like you write something, you can super fast deploy, you get it out there, and yeah.
especially if you are solving your own problem, and just for people to relate. So, I was telling you, Rahul, like we have, audience globally. So yeah, here in the UAE and the Middle East region in general, back in 2010, 2011, so we didn't have the Amazons and, these big, e-commerce shops over here. And it was, and still, I think I'm sure like Rahul, you can shed light. And this is exactly what you do at Desertcart. So getting what you want as fast as possible is one of the biggest challenge. And as you said, there's nothing more rewarding, I would say, is to solve a problem that you have and like a lot of other people they have. And of course, when you write it as a code, this is like a completely also different
Mhm.
experience. Now, Rahul, so this is, the reason why you started it and, from, building the company. At that time, so almost like when which year you started exactly the business?
Oh, it was around 2014.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
so
remember
almost
exactly,
11
but
years.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
2014. It was kind of slow to start because I think people were still used to the buying stuff online phase at that point. But once people, found it, and we basically got it spread very quickly through word of mouth at the very beginning. And once people found out about it, it just blew up. But yeah, for the first couple of years, I think for the first year, it was fairly slow. And then
right. So
yeah,
so 11 years, if I want to take you back 11 years ago, Rahul, and
yeah,
so you had the idea, and it's a actual problem that not only
yeah,
you but a lot of people. I want to go first from the technology side of the business. So back
sure.
then, like how did you, decide, like for example, on like how from both sides, like from back end perspective, front end
Yeah.
perspective, like did you do it by yourself? Did you need to hire a team with you? And like, did you plan also, for example, for scalability? Because like
Mhm.
I'm curious to know about these details
Yeah, yeah,
from you,
yeah.
which will be also like helpful for fellow entrepreneurs also as well.
Yeah. So in college, I'd kind of come across this thing called Ruby on Rails. And there was this framework written on Ruby to write web applications. And, I'd written 4 or 5 apps with that before, and I was kind of familiar with it. And I was also super into like web scraping technology, like, the stuff Google does to crawl all these websites. And if you think about it, you need a very scalable architecture to do that because you have, millions and millions of websites, billions probably. You had to scale, you had to index them, you had to search them. And to me, honestly, when I was starting this, I wasn't really thinking about the scale we would get to today. I was just thinking about my initial problem I was solving myself. So I wrote it in, I wrote the whole code myself in Ruby on Rails, including stuff like the spiders, the crawlers, everything. Um, I knew that there's a lot of products available. Um, if you look at the markets like US, UK, India, the stuff we ship to and ship from, they're markets with huge number of products. And I knew that if it's going to be super successful, one day we'd have this huge infrastructure. But when you start, I think especially with tech, one of the great things you can just solve the next immediate problem and go after that. Um, so I didn't start thinking of this as we need to be storing terabytes of data and indexing and crawling. We have around 300 million products now in our database that we show our users. But yeah, I wasn't thinking about that day one. But it was a it's more interesting to solve those challenges as they come about than to try to plan them out on the first day. And I think that's in general with building any technology. So yeah, we started with Ruby on Rails, and it's really great because it makes you ship really fast. You can go and build something out and get it out there really quickly. And also, it's good because I think there's a lot of good developers and engineers who work on that stack. So we've been able to have a pretty good tech team, engineering team in our company
Right.
because I think we're one of the earliest people to be a Ruby on Rails stack in the UAE specifically. I think a lot of companies are using it now, but we're one of the earlier ones. I think back in the day, it was a lot of PHP, a lot of uh, Java apps and stuff like that.
And I think some people used to go for the on the shelf, as we call them, solutions. So
Yeah,
you just like,
yeah,
um, but you don't have a lot of customizations over there.
yeah,
So,
yeah. In a way, I really think it would be nice if we'd use something like WooCommerce or Shopify, but just
mhm,
based on the model and how much of it we do in house. Like shipping all these different SKUs, different millions of products internationally is not easy. So, in fact, our whole and like you said in the very beginning, you touched on, people want their stuff fast. When people order something, they want, like as fast as possible. And I realized a big advantage we would have is having your own internal software used for our operations and logistics. So we actually built our own software we use in our warehouses, in our picking, packing, in our receiving, and our shipping. So having that integrated into our main application makes it so much smoother, the process, the tracking, and everything else, that I think it made sense to make a custom solution because of the problem we're solving and the scale we're solving it at.
Right. Now, if I want to ask, like, as we were discussing before the recording, like mix of both technology and business questions also as well. So, if you look back, from 11 years ago and to today, how have you seen the e-commerce space evolved, especially in our region, in MENA region? So,
Yeah.
um, to your point, and again, yeah, I've been here in the UAE since 2005, and ordering something from abroad, actually online, was a dream. And then like ordering something, you
Yeah.
needed, I remember back in the day, sometimes if you have a friend or maybe some family member visiting a conference or just going for a
Yeah.
vacation, we used to
Yeah.
tell them like, hey, on your way back, can you grab me
Yeah.
this? You give them the
Yeah.
money, and then, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and now to where we are today, right? So tell me a little bit more, and how this has affected Desertcart. Like, did you have
Yeah.
also to change a little bit, the business model also as well, like how it evolved? I'm curious to know, Rahul,
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. I think it's a very good point. If you remember back in the day, there was uh, what, like maybe like a entire 10,000 SKUs you could find online in UAE, and that has gone up to now what, like millions, right? You have all the cross-border guys from China. You have people from the US that's getting better capability to expand international. You have Amazon now in the market. You have Noon. Everyone's doing a great job, and everyone's really trying to win the customer's wallet, right? So you have deep discounts. You have really good deals, and I think, yeah, it's much harder to say that UAE now is a developing e-commerce market compared to where we were 10 years ago. Yeah, I think it's pretty developed, and in a way, it's really good. I think for the consumers, and I think it was just a little maybe underinvested in 10 years ago. Uh, I think for what we do, we've seen ourselves growing every year, including, and I think part of it is that a people really prefer the big selection of stuff. So I think there's always going to be like a few layers of e-commerce. You have the stuff, like you have the dark stores now. You have the local deliveries, and you can get stuff in, I think, almost 15 minutes now. It's shocking. I ordered something a few days ago, and I got it to my house in like 7 minutes. It's like pretty impressed. So you have like the local selection, which is really close to you, and you can get that in 10, 15, 30 minutes. I think you're going to have a larger hub, maybe in a city level or a district level, that might maybe have like somewhere like 1 million to 2 million SKUs, and you can get that in a day or two. And then I think you'll have the third one, which we fit into, which is 300 million SKUs all around the world. But you're not going to get that in a day or 15 minutes. You're going to wait 4 or 5 days for that. And I think that's kind of the three parts I see. Um, like those are the three buckets I see, like how you can, move stuff fast, because you can't store 1 million SKUs near your house, and you can't store 300 million SKUs in your, city. Um, and yeah, I think in a way the rise of e-commerce has been really good kind of tailwind for us, because people are now used to buying stuff online. They kind of have a certain service level they expect. And if you remember back in the day, there's a lot of cash on delivery. People were not really trusting, like, oh, what am I buying online? But that's kind
Right.
of mostly gone away now. People understand that, hey, if I get something online, I pay for it, I'm going to get it at my door. I can get the tracking and get the whole visibility end to end. So
Mm.
yeah, I think it's been very helpful, and I'm really enjoying seeing the ecosystem grow and people just getting more comfortable shopping online. I think UAE is still not. If you look at percent of retail that's online, I think the region UAE is probably far ahead of the rest of them. But I think as a region, we're getting closer and closer to the developed economies of like US, UK, Europe, etc.
Right.
And we caught up pretty fast.
And I think Rahul, like I mean, from coverage perspective, you went outside of the UAE also as well, right?
Yeah. That was one of the look. I think we consider ourselves a very UAE company. I started here. My first customers were here, and our whole like team is here. So we do consider ourselves like a homegrown company. And I know in
Mm-hmm.
UAE there's um, not many tech companies that are homegrown, but it's a smallish ecosystem. But I think uh, around 5 years into the journey, I realized, okay, we're solving a problem here, but what we can do here is a proof of concept, and it works really well, and we can take it to other parts, both in the region and outside the region. So our first place we went to was Saudi Arabia. Then we went to Oman. Then we went to Kuwait. Then we went to Bahrain. We slowly covered the entire Middle East. Um, After that, we decided let's move into Asia. So we moved into India, which is now like a big market for us, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really well because people are the same everywhere. They have hobbies, they have interests, they have things that they want that they can't find locally. Especially very specific items that just their local merchants don't cater to them. Um, we also now ship to really far places like Australia. We ship to UK, parts of Europe. So we're kind of building up our customer base in different parts of the world that have the same problem that people in the UAE have faced, which is the lack of availability to the exact product they're looking for.
From business perspective, Rahul, also like I mean the business model. So do you also, you know, try to seek kind of partnership where, in a sense, as an e-commerce, as a tech company, seeing like maybe in like small businesses or maybe even individuals, because now the laws allows, for doing the e-commerce activities. So use your platform for people also to to put their products, or
Yeah,
did you prefer like just for the sake of quality, for the sake of keeping not control in the sense you want to keep the control, but you want also to fulfill the orders, and you want to make sure that
yeah,
everything is controlled. So which route have you chosen, and why?
yeah. I think a lot of platforms are very tempted to go the platform route and build a marketplace, and we kind of avoided that because the points you mentioned. Uh, we physically receive every item and we check it. So when you buy international, right, the last thing you want is, you waited, 5, 6 days for your order to come, and then you're like, this is not exactly what I want, or it's maybe closer to expiry than I like, or there's a slight damage, and we like to make it so that everything we sell goes through our process. So someone in our warehouse can check it, someone in operations can, handle it, and opening up to a platform where other sellers can come on and sell their products and ship it to the customer, we think would kind of not have the same look and feel. It's very hard to control third party sellers on your platform. And one of the things is, we realize as well, because, we buy from all over the world, different sources, and not all of them come the same. So we're actually pretty careful from where we source from. And we also try very hard to ensure that every single item we send is uh, checked, received properly, packaged properly, and, you know, make sure that it gets to the end customer in a pretty good shape. Because when it goes through all these layers of international shipping, it gets on trucks, on planes, on people's bikes, and then back on the truck, and then there's a lot of chances that things don't end up coming to you the same way they're shipped out. So we like to be there to make sure that happens. Um, we do have another platform now. We do like there are a lot of sellers I think in the world that have very interesting products to sell, and one of the problems for them is that they don't know how to reach an international audience. Like they have their local markets, they have some interest, but I think a lot of them find it a struggle to kind of ship internationally. Because once you ship internationally, you get into trying to figure out what the duties are, what the taxes are, what the import regulations may or may not be in other countries.
Right.
And us having shipped I don't know millions of products so far, we have that kind of baked in, and we have this product called self ship. So if you're a seller and you want to ship to your customers worldwide, you can come to us, and we do have a separate product for that specifically. Um, again, it's not part of the Desertcart platform. It's not selling goods to our customers yet, but it is allowing you to basically be able to get our expertise in international shipping, get our rates, get our prices, and be able to deliver to your customers wherever they are in the world.
Great. I want to go back to a little bit touch on the technology, Rahul. So we discussed about, yeah, like how also, platforms, I mean, and programming languages from, you choose Ruby on Rails, which is, by the way, there are a lot of well-known websites they're relying on it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
what I'm interested to talk about now. So I remember, yeah, and people know by now, I'm like old enough. So, especially in e-commerce, so big data was, the word at some stage. So the big data, and
Mm.
then, machine learning, and now we have AI. So, from your perspective, Raul, and someone who's, coming from technology, and you're running the business also as well,
Yeah.
integrating these technologies, and making sure that you make the best out of that. um, what was your approach? What's your approach now with Gen AI, and all the great things that we are seeing, happening around us? Would like
Yeah.
to see like your point of view on that also as well.
Yeah. I mean, you've had a lot of guests, I think, talking about AI on your show.
Yes.
Um, I think it's pretty cool what we're seeing, and I don't think anyone could have predicted it. What's happening right now with AI in general, generative AI. So obviously, we were one of the first people to adopt it. Um, we're using, I think, the OpenAI APIs back in 2022, 2023, I think. And like, I think it's very different. I think AI is very different to big data or any of the other trends before. And this is literally, um, in a way, your computer is talking to you and can generate text that sounds pretty much like a human being. I don't know if you were there back in the day when um, AlphaGo was Google had AlphaGo that beat
Yeah.
the World Champion Go. Yeah, that was. I think it's one of those moments where you're like, okay, something new has been unlocked. And I don't really know the end where it's gonna go at the very end. I think, but um, I think we've been on top of it. It's pretty exciting. It's for an e-commerce perspective and what we do, which is technology to ship stuff around the world. It's happening quite a bit. If you look at just our engineering teams, I think they've gotten way more productive with use of Gen AI. Um, we use a lot of it for powering our logistics and our supply chain. Um, Again, when it comes to shipping, a lot of it is documentation, doing work around paperwork, making sure you have the right data for the right product and the right uh, regulations. And yeah, we use it quite a bit for that. Um, we've we have some exciting new stuff coming out product wise, which I can't share right now, but we'll announce it soon. But I think we have some pretty cool AI related uh,
Sneak peek, maybe.
sneak peek maybe. Yeah, look, I just think look, the way we're going to be buying stuff and searching stuff, I think will change.
Hmm.
Like you look back in the day, you're probably using your encyclopedia before. I'm saying pre-internet. If you want to find information, that's where you went to, right? You went to encyclopedia, maybe newspaper or whatever. And post-internet, there's a different way you would find information. Uh, pre-internet, there's a way you shop, and post-internet, there's a different way you shop. You shop online, you search on, your Googles or your Amazons or your Desertcarts. And pre-internet, you'd probably go to your local mall or your local retail store. So I definitely think post AI, the way you shop is not going to be the same as the way you shopped pre AI. It's not going to be the same. Let me go search for reviews, find what the ratings would be. It's going to be different. Again, I don't think we can predict exactly how that's going to look right now, but I can tell you it's not going to be the way you shopped pre AI, and that's going to be pretty exciting, right? I'm sure there'll be a lot of new companies, new tools, new uh, entrepreneurs, new startups coming out there, but yeah, we're trying to build something that will kind of be more in the future on how you shop rather than how we, have shopped in the last 20 years on the internet. I think the ideas will still be the same. People want smooth experience, people want fast deliveries, people want cost efficient products. But I think the way to get in front of your customers and the way to promote your product. That's what's going to change. And I'm excited about that. I think AI as a technology is very powerful. I think it's more than just like what we can do for increasing our Desertcart as e-commerce platform. Obviously, we're doing all that, but I think it's potentially going to change the way we work and change the way that we, uh, I don't know, just, I mean, I think the internet changed a lot, right? Like, I think it's going to change even more than the internet potentially, because there's literal, you know, intelligent things that are on your computer. Like, it's a pretty, I don't think people have really grasped the magnitude of, kind of what,
Right.
yeah,
I get the point, and if I want to quote, someone, I can quote John Chamber, who was, back in the days, in the early '90s, he was talking about how the internet will change the way
Mm.
we live, work,
Right.
and play, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I like, actually you touch it like Raul. So we always say pre-computer, post-computer,
right,
pre-internet, post-internet,
yeah,
pre-smartphone, post-smartphone. And this phase of AI and Gen AI is again yet another
yeah,
moment, which is like
yeah,
pre and post. So 100% on this point, and yeah, for sure. And I like when you said no, we cannot predict. Absolutely. I
oh
remember
yeah,
like before we started the actual recording, you started to ask me like when I started to do the podcast. The time I
Mm.
started to record my first few episodes, like ChatGPT was still like I think couple of weeks. So
Okay. Yeah,
okay, it was the cool thing, but we didn't know. So
yeah,
I still used to ask at the end, for example, as a traditional question to any of my guests, hey, like, what do you think will happen in this domain after
mhm,
in the next 5 to 10 years? I stopped asking
right,
this question because
right, yeah,
now, and also you gave a very nice example, Rahul, when you said about the go and the this unlocking. So it's like
yeah,
it's look like maybe a little philosophical. We are like into a game, right?
yeah,
And now we are entering the next levels very
yeah,
fast. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't have much time into that level. You need to upskill yourself very fast, so you go and
yeah,
jump to the next one. And
yeah.
yeah,
I think it's gonna be
absolutely.
very hard to make plans like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I think the best you can do when stuff is moving this fast is keep yourself very close to the ground. Like almost like a sprinter. Get ready to see what's coming and run rather than trying to say I'm gonna make a skill. Because even 10 years ago, the rise of internet, you can't train yourself to be like Mohammed. I'm gonna train you to be a podcast host. They'll be like, okay, I don't know, like, is that gonna be a good thing to train for? Like, so I don't think we'll know the kind of jobs we'll have or the work we'll be doing in a few years because it's probably not going to be the same as what we're doing today.
Right.
Right.
As a tech leader, Raul, and it's good because you mentioned, you said about like how AI helped your engineers. And with the again, it's a trend now where people talks about using AI in coding and
Yeah.
the vibe coding also as
Yeah.
well, which
Yeah.
is on the rise. As a technologist now, I want you to put your technologist hat, the
Yeah.
engineering hat,
Mhm.
and like tell me your opinion. I will not tell you what will happen in the future as we
Yeah.
spoke. No one will
Of course.
know.
Of course.
but
Yeah.
but is AI going to replace completely developers, or is just like
Hmm.
make the developers more senior, like senior employees, I mean, with a lot of capabilities, with
Yeah.
a lot of you know uh, augmented powers.
Augmented. Yeah. I think it's really funny how things have turned out. Like, I think you're talking about predicting the future. And it's really funny
Yeah,
because I remember when I was a kid, right? People were talking about how the robots are going to come and automate all the labor first, like the people in the who are like making your phones or the people who are making your clothes. The more unskilled, that's going to
the
be
blue
automated first.
collars.
The blue collars will be the first to be automated, and then it's going to be slowly it's going to be maybe the people doing manual work on computers, and then the coders and the CEOs and these guys will be the last to be automated because the job. But if you look at how things have turned out, it's exactly the reverse, right?
Opposite.
Opposite. It seems like the first thing that AIs are getting really good at doing is coding, or at least they've been more tuned in that way because it's a valuable industry, sure, but um, and yet the self-driving cars are still like barely here. You know what I mean? Whereas coding,
Mm-hmm.
which has been seen as like, oh, this is very advanced skill. Um, I think, look, from what I can tell, uh, the AIs can do most of the jobs. I mean, if you look at the best models right now, I'm talking about the O4s or the Cloud 3.7s, they're as good as the best junior developers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, the thing is, the models aren't humans in that they can't learn, right? They're very input output driven. They have a specific, I mean, the model is the model. It doesn't live update in real time. So it's like talking to the new developer every time and giving him a task. And I'm not sure what the next ones will be, but maybe the next one will actually learn as you talk to it and get better at understanding the intricacies of your code base or intricacies of how you want to develop stuff. Um, Again, I think right now humans are still a bottleneck because there's some things the AIs can't really do. Like they can't use your computer well, for example. They can't click on different icons. They can't click on create pull requests. So you still need humans to do certain work. But if you look at how well they code, given a certain task and how fast they do it, the same work that would have taken me like a few days to do, I can get it done now if I give the right prompt and the right context to an AI in maybe a few minutes. So do I think there's a long lifespan for people whose job is writing code? I don't think so. But I don't think a lot of stuff, I think maybe people have thought of their job wrong. And as a software engineer, maybe your job isn't to write code. It is to understand the complex problem that you're solving
Mm-hmm.
and tell that to an AI. Yeah, I don't know. Like if these guys, these things are getting more and more powerful, like more like cognitively powerful in what they can do. Uh, they can plan tasks for longer. They can probably write better code too. I don't know. It seems to me it's hard to say that the job of writing code will be uh, a human domain for too long. And it's funny because I think someone told me the word computer actually comes from a human job. There used to be people back in World War I or two, and I think it was mostly women, but they used to be given these math tables, and their job was to compute. Like, okay, given this number, they used to just do all the calculation and give you the final output. So if you need to do like, ship missiles or something, you'd be given the angles and the velocity, then you'd have to calculate where they're falling. So that job was called a computer, and
Right.
they're just human computers. So maybe coder is now not anymore a human thing. Just like computers went from human to just being a machine, I think maybe developers would also be the same thing. Your developer would not be a human; it'd just be a
Right. Right. 100%. Just like quickly on what you mentioned. So, a couple of things. Um, with the last thing you ended with, I think there's a lot of terms we need to change. So, computer, you know,
yeah.
I work in the sector for a long time, which we call all of us IT, right?
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
don't feel it's information. What's information technology, guys? I said like, yeah, it was a relevant word back in the 90s, maybe beginning of 2000s. It's just technology. It's not like information technology.
Mhm.
What are we because all the
Yeah.
information is digitized. Maybe digital technology, I don't know. The second thing, which is about the human role. So one of my guests, and he's a friend. Actually, we were in the same university. Rabia Abla. He said like in the future, what he thinks is the best position to know or to have is the business analyst, the one who
Mhm.
understand the business requirements and this complexity, and he can convert this into what's called quote unquote prompt engineering to
Yeah.
give it into natural language,
Mhm. Mhm.
form into the machine, right? And the
Yeah.
machine would go and do the job for you. And the
Right.
last thing, and just again, I'm going a little bit philosophical
Yeah.
about this cycle. And when you mentioned like people, thought that the blue collars would go first, and then the white collars, or like the senior.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So the other, couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my father, like, he's like 85 years old, and it's like, what do you think will happen? I said, I'm looking at it as a cycle, right? So we started from, the age where everyone was a farmer, and then we had the
Mhm.
industrial age, and then we
Yeah.
had the information age. And looks like we're gonna go to be farmers again because the machine. Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
will have like a small
That's the only thing
farm,
you get.
maybe,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Right.
or,
Like.
or I don't know, or maybe maybe you become a fisherman. I don't know, like whatever you like to do. And
Yeah.
then there are machines who are doing the jobs for us. Of course, like it's a
Right.
bit
I
like
mean, yeah. It seems to me
utopia.
that. that world is very exactly. We don't know, right? What's left for us to be doing. And maybe, yeah, maybe
Right.
in a way it's a nice world if we just go back to be like, okay, like we made all this technology and now we can go back to doing what we were, built to do, which is
Absolutely.
just go farm and hunt or whatever. Maybe that's
It's
yeah,
just a little bit philosophical, and of course, like
yeah.
we discussed
It
it
is,
many
it is.
times. No one knows. And again, back to your point,
Yeah.
Rahul, no one knows. Like we cannot predict 100%. You cannot
Yeah.
forecast it 100% because
Yeah.
there is a lot of things. And always I tell people we don't know currently what some builders in the tech I'm speaking they are working on, and they might surprise us because when ChatGPT came, it was I remember very well November 2022,
Yeah.
and the first I knew about the OpenAI and what they were trying to do. I said,
Mhm.
okay, like just another chatbot, and just like when I interacted with it, I said, wow, like this gonna like
Mhm.
take the world by storm. And
Yeah.
I'm I'm grateful enough. Any technology that I've seen, like, and I said it's gonna change something, it did. So my I would say it came to my expectations. Now back to
Yeah. I
you,
think
Rahul,
yeah,
and
even
yeah, please.
GPT-2 was pretty exciting. GPT-3, I think just like the ChatGPT just like kind of the world got into it.
Right.
But even it too, you could like tell there's something different about this, what this was. And I think the worrying thing, like you said, even the people who are building it don't know what they're building next. And maybe even more weird is the people who build it don't actually know how this works. Like, this is the first technology we have where, usually when you build something, the person who built it knows exactly how it works. Like, if you look at the tech for Desertcart, I could tell you exactly what each line did and how it worked. And
Right.
if you looked at someone who built a plane, they would tell you exactly, how it works. But it's really surprising that in this situation, the people that are building it don't really know it's just matrix multiplications. They don't know what it's actually, the algorithms are inside it. So in a way, if they don't know even how it works, how are they going to, even the people building it, they can't really say what's coming next. So, I don't think we can really. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to add one small thing, I remember also I read it a couple of weeks ago. So there are now some scientists who are trying to
Mm,
understand how Claude, specifically the
mm,
from Anthropic, act when you ask a question, especially when it comes to coding. So they are trying to understand the reasoning of the machine, which is
mhm,
for
mhm.
me something fascinating. So it
Yeah.
was built by humans, and now humans are trying to decode how it was done. Because again, we can go in details. It's like
Yeah.
talking
It's very
about neural
interesting.
networks
Mhm.
and like fuzzy logic. I
Yeah.
can go till morning. But again, now
Yeah.
Rahul, as we're almost coming to an end, I want from you a couple of things. So first, if there's anything you learned and you want to share with the audience, like a couple of things to avoid maybe, and also like final advice for people who might be now listening to us on their way to work, or maybe students in their final years, and they are
Yeah.
getting excited to go. So maybe a word to also like motivate them, and finally where people can get in touch and to find more about you.
Yeah. Sure. Um, in terms of motivation, I, I think if you're like a young person like me just coming out of college, I think one of the biggest things I found personally drove me was my curiosity. I was very curious, and I think curiosity is a big driver in me. And also, I try to instill that as a company culture. So I would say rather than trying to do something that people are telling you to do or people are telling you the direction to go in, I think just if you're generally smart, I think curiosity is a good thing to lean on. Like, what are you intrinsically curious about? Like, just go work on that. And what are you intrinsically excited about? What makes you curious to want to learn more, do more? And I think that's, I don't know, like the thing with advice to young people is that there's always two sides of the same advice. There's other advice. Someone's going to give you exact opposite advice. Like, I don't think there's general advice you can give people that work for everyone. So, yeah, I would say, because sometimes you need advice, but another person needs exact opposite advice. So, I don't think there's a specific advice
Interesting
I can
point
give.
of
So
view.
I don't know if that's very motivational, but um,
No, no,
yeah,
completely reasonable.
for
Completely
me at least,
reasonable.
what worked was following my curiosity and that.
This is an advice, by the way.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
said from
exactly.
right.
Yeah. Again, it's what worked for me, but maybe it's not going to work for someone else. It's hard to tell. Um, in terms of what I learned, I think, yeah, building a company, I think, is much harder than you expect, and I think it's better doing it young because you're more naive about the problems and the things you're facing. And I think that's the reason why there's so many young people doing tech, because they don't understand. Like, it's like, okay, we'll solve it when we come across it. And I think if you knew all the stuff you would have to do, you'd probably never start in the first place. So I think, in a way, the younger you are, I would say, if you at least have any inclination at all to do your own company one day or to do a startup or you have an entrepreneurial mindset, just take the leap and do it early, because it's more fun that way. And I think you have a better chance anyway. I think UAE has been a great place to start a company, as I would recommend that if you're thinking about it at all, or if you have a place to be. I would say it's very friendly, business ecosystem wise and people wise. So I would say try that. And if you want to reach out, you can always reach me at my name at desertcart.com. This is my email. I'm not super in social media. I do have a Twitter that I never use. You can probably find me there. Same Rahul Swaminathan. But probably email is probably the easiest way to reach out to me.
No problem at all, of course.
Yeah.
And we respect that, Raul. And, just final thing from me before we do the actual closing. I liked, what you said about, it might work for me, it doesn't work for someone else. This is a philosophy that I say to people, get inspired. Like, it's not an advice or more an inspiration thing, because what worked for Mehmet might not work for Rahul, and what worked for Rahul might not work for someone else, right? Yes, but maybe what I can look at, I said, okay, like Rahul did this, he followed that, he followed his passion. So it's an inspiration for me. And I have to go now as an entrepreneur or like as a someone in tech to go and find, okay. And my thing, I always tell people, you need to go and find out by yourself, by trying, because it's good. And I do it. It's good to read books. It's good to listen to podcasts like this one. It's good. It's actually super. And it's what also my knowledge, exploded because I immersed myself into this. But at the end of the day, I take the decision based on the situation I am in. So 100% on that point, Rahul. And I'm gonna put the website for Desertcart, for the audience. They can, find out more. And again, thank you very much, Rahul. I enjoyed this conversation today. I appreciate also the time. I know how it can be for a founder like yourself, busy.
Yeah.
So thank you. So thank you for finding the time. And this is how I end my episode. This is for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, please give me a favor, subscribe, share it with your friends and colleagues. We're trying to make an impact. This podcast is all about inspiration, education, and insights for the new generation. And if you are one of the people who keeps coming again and again and send me their messages, thank yous, and recommendations, thank you very much for doing so. And also, even for your feedback is very important for me. So I read every single message. So thank you for doing this. And thank you for making us this year really special, putting the podcast in a single week now in multiple top 200 charts in Apple Podcasts across multiple countries. So thank you very much for this. And thank you, of course, because of you, we are being selected as one of the top 45 must-listen business podcasts here in Dubai. So thank you for that also as well. And all the accolades, it's not for me, it's actually for the audience. So thank you very much for the encouragement, and hope, we keep always the same momentum. And as I say always, thank you for tuning in. We'll meet again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.